Hello and welcome to Vikings Territory Breakdown. I'm Joe Oberle, senior writer at VikingsTerritory.com and PurplePTSD.com, and that's Mark Craig, NFL writer and Vikings NFL insider and Vikings writer for the Star Tribune and StarTribune.com, and we are here for Victory Tuesday, baby! Victory Tuesday! What a game! What an almost heart attack! But the bigger news is just saw it before we come on the air, and the Vikings are number one. They're number one, baby, in the NFL power rankings from NFL.com.
So, wow.
Yes. Mark said you don't want to peak too early, but the fact that the Vikings are peaking it all is the big news. Go ahead.
That's probably because, I guess the Chiefs lost, I assume it's an ACL for Rashid Rice. And so, now there's the Chiefs are out of the way. What I would say, Joe, my only recommendation would be to have your kicker miss a field goal before he gets to the NFC Championship game. Get it out of the way so that they can take the final step. Well, they're I'll still take the other Chiefs, and because they'll, although they are, you lose Isaiah Pacheco and you lose this Rice. It's starting to mount for them, but until number 15 gets hurt, I'll put them one. But I'll put
the Chiefs number two.
I'll put the Vikings at number one in the NFC. I mean, what we're seeing is, we're not seeing I should say, when I say consistency, that game didn't have the consistency, but the 4 weeks have consistency for me. So they're just a damn good team right now.
Yeah, you can't crown them yet. It's way too early, and that second half of that, I should say, the fourth quarter, gives all us Vikings faithful pause, because we've all been here before. So all the plaudits are great. They should be up in the top 5 for sure. And there's only 2 teams left that are undefeated. That's the Chiefs and the Vikings. And the Chiefs have Kareem Hunt as their starting running back now, who they pulled, who was there and then left and was in Cleveland and didn't do so great in Cleveland. Now he's back. So they're hurting a little bit in some of their players in that regard, but they just keep doing it. I mean, Travis Kelce will start playing better. So no, it's too early to crown him, but boy, I ain't going to take any shine off what was yesterday. Sunday, the Vikings throttled the Packers for at least a half, and then they held on for the win. Mark, what would you say went wrong in the second half? Was it that, at the end of the first half, was that muff punt led to an easy touchdown for them, and it just kind of gave them life, and the Vikings were, they couldn't respond to that? Or what how does that happen? Because they were dominating that first half.
Yeah, I mean, I just came from, Flora, the coordinator speak on Tuesday. So, Brian Flores was asked that question, and I agree with him. He said, part of it's human nature, and as you and I know, like whenever you get up in a golf match, what's the first thing that happens? You start letting off a little bit and all that, and then the other team gets a crack, and then they start coming. So momentum is a real thing in the NFL. Letting up a little bit is a real thing. I think in the third. When it was 20, well, first of all, they got back in the game with that, ridiculous, Naylor trying to field that punt. That's a huge mistake. That really jump-started the crowd, the Packers. And then you get to when it was 28-7, they scored. When they scored that touchdown and made it 28-14, to me, the pass rush looked like they were gassed. I mean, it looked like they had just lost their air. And the time of possession wasn't lopsided. I think the Vikings won the time of possession, but it was warmer. It's like you're asking a question about the heat in Green Bay is kind of foreign, but it was warmer. I think that they lost a little bit of gas, and then the offense comes out, and 2 plays later is a strip sack, so puts the Packers at the 20, and they score, and suddenly it's a 6-point game. So. One touchdown drive is 3 yards. Another touchdown drive is 20 yards. So you add that all up, and by the time they got down to where, they don't get the 4th and 1, and then it's a 96-yard touchdown drive in like a minute or whatever it was, some crazy amount. the Vikings were reeling, just sort of like Michigan was reeling when the Gophers, if that onside kick, if they had gotten that, the Gophers probably would have scored. That's just kind of the natural. We saw with both teams in town here, the natural ebb and flow of what a game, not only within a season, but within a game.
Yeah, it was a glorious, almost complete first half, and then boy, for every person that's followed this team through the years, and even more recently, there were some sphinctering, puckering going on here. It was everybody was getting tight because that things just started going the wrong way, and momentum has that. You say human nature. And I believe it. If anybody's, you and I've been in golf matches with each other when one guy's just playing well the whole time, and all of a sudden some little crack and it happens, and you start thinking about it rather than just instinctually playing. And I think that's maybe what happened with the Vikings. They start tightening up a little bit, and gosh, this because it was just dominance for now, granted there were a lot of turnovers and what's his name was not as mobile as he might have been in the past, and he was not as sharp early, Jordan Love, but boy, he came on in the second half, and all of a sudden you start thinking, oh my God, here we go.
Yeah, and I understand a lot of scar tissue in this town, Joe, but and I understand their concern, but to me, this is kind of a good thing because they experienced this situation. And they got a win in Green Bay, out of it. So you get the experience, you get the win, you're still undefeated, and you just look at what this team has gone through, and then you see where you could have been, where they are now, and I put more weight on the fact that it was 28-0 and they were rolling than I do. The muff punt started a string of events where, they had to survive it, and that was, to me, was and I think Flores might even have made mention of that. It's like, this it's almost good to experience this, and use it. And I think that they can. There's no major injuries to come out of the game, whereas you're seeing, around the league, injuries starting to mount. In fact, the Vikings get healthier. They get Addison comes back, and then I would assume that maybe this week Hawkinson starts practicing and stuff like that. So they got a lot of good things going for them, and right now with and to me, surviving that is that's it could be a big thing.
It's someone was saying to me this weekend, you should almost lose a game, as they go towards the playoffs, so they refocus themselves. And I don't ever agree with that per se, but I understand it. And this kind of happened. This like you said, they did kind of almost lose this game, so they got the wake up call that you need out of that, and they still get to be 4-0 and top of the division. So I'll take it. But let's run down some of the players that played really well this weekend for the Vikings. And to start with Sam Darnold, who was dealing once again. He was 20 of 28 for 275 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, which I don't think was a pick, and a fumble, 123.4 rating. Another great game for Darnold. I mean, you can't, you almost now 4 games in, you have to believe what you're seeing, and that's who he is or can be, but wasn't before he came here.
I would say it's what he can be. He's got to keep proving. He's got to keep putting these together. There's going to be a game where he doesn't play well. What would impress, and I wrote about it. One of my 5 extra points was when it was when they did the strips, when they had the strip sack, and the Packers get the ball at the 20-yard line, and they go in right in and score. It was like, man, they should have been running the ball. Why did O'Connell throw it twice, and the second time ended up being a strip sack where Darnold had no idea that guy was coming? That was a great blitz. That's one of the better blitzes you will ever see by a defensive back, because that guy, man, when the ball was snapped, that nobody on the Vikings had any idea he was coming. So a great play by the by the Packers. They come back out, and we're all sitting there. I think we even talked about it. Oh, it's time for Aaron Jones. You got to settle things down. He comes out. O'Connell comes out, and they throw it. They throw a ball to Jefferson. They line up again. They throw it again. They throw it again. 5 out of 6 times on that drive, they threw the ball, which to me told you, wow, O'Connell's got some stones and he's got some trust in Darnold. And Darnold has the ability to be unruffled by the situation, which was with the people around him. And the offensive line, the reason we know the offensive line is playing really well right now is because we don't talk about them anymore.
Right.
And for them to come out and march down the field and get that field goal, which ended up being the decisive points, was really impressive, because I thought, I personally thought what they would do, what they maybe should have done was start handing it off. Let's take the clock down. Now, had they done that, what might have happened, what probably would have happened is, we would have been sitting here going, well, they played too conservative, all that stuff. Well, that told me some pretty good coaching, some pretty good execution, and then of course you're riding a great player who had two of the greatest catches you'll see in one game. So yeah, that to me was very impressive. That O'Connell has the trust in Darnold, and Darnold has the ability to do that.
You're right. I have him down here later in the agenda, but I should talk about him now since you brought him up. The offensive line was great. They gave Darnold a lot of time all day. Kenny Clark was almost an afterthought. They gave up only 2 sacks and 3 QB hits. And you said they're the key. I'm calling them the unsung hero of the season so far. I mean, like you said, nobody's talking about them, and they're unsung, but they are playing great. I mean, you could nitpick something here or there, but even the interior is playing great, from Bradbury to Ingram and certainly Blake Brandel. Just the offensive line is the key to this 4-0 start, I really believe.
Yeah, I mean, especially the first half. I mean, the first third down was, the Packers looked like they sent 4 60-year-old guys at Darnold, because you had a 4-man rush. You had the 3 interior guys were taking care of the 2, Kenny Clark, and the 2 tackles had their just single blocking on the 2 edge guys, and Darnold had all the time in the world, and Naylor just drifted across the middle, and boom, he had a 31-yard pass. The way it went when it was 28-0, there was no kind of rush. Then you started to see it change, and the Packers finally decided they needed to do something extra to try and get to the quarterback, and that blitz off the blind side was an example of that. That was a great move by them. But overall, this offensive line, you're not seeing, and part of it is you have a running back now who's got more instincts. He's got he's not as big, but he's powerful. He doesn't go backwards very often. So they're run blocking well, and they're pass protecting pretty well.
Speaking of Aaron Jones, another great game, and it was at his old home. 22 for 93 yards, 22 rushes, and 4 catches for 46 yards. He didn't get his TD, but he did get his Lambeau leap before he left. It was great to see for him, and a lot of the social media you see about him after the game is that definitely well loved over there. There's a lot of the staff and coming by and talking to him, and he did do a Lambeau leap, which was nice. But they're probably as sad to see him go as many are around here. Sad to see that Karl Anthony Towns got traded away from the Timberwolves. Yeah. But good for Aaron Jones.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a tribute to him. I mean, when you get to know him, I'm not claiming that I know him really well, but you're around him enough to know that this guy's probably going to be well liked no matter where he's at. In his life, I'm sure he's well liked everywhere he goes, just because of you can just tell the kind of person he is. But the Packers are doing okay with Josh Jacobs. I mean, they came into the game averaging 204 yards rushing, and one of my 5 extra points when some of these stories trickle down to where I'm at, what I'm looking for is what would they do on first down? Because that would determine how well I thought that Love would play, and the Packers could control the game. Well, the first run, first play of the game, it was an 8-yard run up the middle. You're like, this could be, because immediately you're at 2nd and 2. And then it was the next 7 runs or 6 or 7 runs on first down, only netted 4 yards. And 2 of those back-to-back plays were the 2-yard tackle for loss by Cashman, and then a 1-yard tackle for loss by Phillips and Tillery. Really kind of, I felt, established some sort of like, hey, we're not just going to get run over on first down. And that played a role, I think, in the Packers being a little one-dimensional. And Jordan Love, for a guy who had almost 400 yards passing and 4 touchdowns, that might be the worst 400-yard, 4-touchdown game I've ever seen because of, the interception that he throws in that when it's first down, it's like 6 minutes left, and he gets rushed by Harrison Smith coming off and throws that up for grabs. He made some bad decisions, and so to me, it was just good to go over there for the Vikings and to play the way they did. I look, like I said, I look more at that 28-0 than I do what happened afterwards.
We're you're talking defense already, Mark. Come on, man. We got offense to talk about here yet. Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson. My goodness, Addison returns from the ankles, and scores 2 DDs. One of them on the ground, one through the air. He had 3 grabs for 72 yards. One of his touchdown catches, the one over the top of his head, was one of the best I've ever seen. I mean, that is such a difficult grab. He's going down and supposed to come over one shoulder. It wasn't, so he had to go like this and grab it like that. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
What a grab. He did not look any worse for wear. Now, granted, they didn't overuse him, which was great. Nice, got a little nailer in there, but hats off to Jordan Addison. The offense sure clicks with that guy in there.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a great athlete. He's just the 2 receivers, those 2 guys are, just phenomenal athletes that are able to do things that even NFL players can't do. I'm more like was wowed by the move that he made on the run, where he got the guy to, basically fall down and score. So, yeah. And then Jefferson, I mean, the one where he looked like he was almost complaining that he was being held or whatever, and then he just sticks his – that reminded me, like Randy Moss used to be able to run down the field, and he had a knack for, like, his eyes and his hands never showed where the ball was, and he could just at the last second stick his hands up, and he would, guys would be like, where's the ball? And then next thing you know, it's Moss, mossing, catching it over their helmet or whatever. And then we only hear the comparisons to Randy Moss, and that sideline catch. First thing I said was Carter, and I was like, Chris Carter. Everybody talks about how you could stretch the field, vertically, and Chris Carter, he stretched the field horizontally because he made the field, 5 yards, 6 yards longer or wider than it was, and that O'Connell had to use his 3rd challenge on that, and that's another thing I mentioned in my 5 extra point was
we'll get there.
So, anyways, that catch was Chris Carter, and so in the same game he had I thought kind of a Randy Moss ball skill, magician with a guy right on top of him, and the other one was Chris Carter.
Justin Jefferson was quiet for early on in the game, but when the Vikings needed him late, he came through. I mean, that's like it was there's those 2 17-yard passes that Darnold hit him to get that drive going for the winning field goal. There's that catch that you just described, unbelievable, and his touchdown grab was phenomenal. I mean, he's the guy's draped all over him. He somehow reaches back and grabs it. He's got one arm is being held down, and he grabs it with one running into the end zone. That's just. It's such a gas to watch that stuff. I mean, this guy, he's not Moss, but he sure makes you feel like it. He sure. Go ahead.
He's not Randy in the length and the speed, right. But his ball skills where he's able to catch it, in all these weird situations. that touchdown that's the one that reminded me of Moss. Whenever he had a guy draped on him, and he's basically, looked like he's complaining about being
I had
held.
to watch on replay to see how he caught it. It was it was so amazing. You were there,
there's so much of that where you're looking like, okay, well, did I see it right? And then you have to watch it a few times, like, wow.
Just real quickly, what you were there? You were at Lambeau Field, which is why we're doing this today on Tuesday. And what was it like there that first half? Was it just silent, or the silence you hear is Lambeau Field? I mean, what was the sense there in the stadium getting down 28-0?
Well, yeah, there certainly was quiet. It was, I remember leaning over and going, "This is going to be a tough loss, guys." Yeah, I said to someone, it was 28-0, because typically in 2022 it was always, it's going to be, if they were up, it's going to be a tough loss, and who'd have thought it would have ended up being a 2-point game?
Yeah,
but at Lambeau, you're behind glass, but you can tell when it's quiet. I can tell you when I felt it was the noisiest was after the Vikings offense comes back on the field after they made it a 6-point game. And that's when I was saying that, Aaron Jones should run the ball here to kind of settle things down. And that was the loudest it was. And then it took, that pass to Jefferson and then another pass. And then it just, was quiet again.
I'm looking at the agenda here. I don't think I asked you when it was loudest. I don't know why you're telling me that.
Yeah, well,
I don't see it on here.
I'm going off script. I'm scrambling all over the place, Jeff. I will say that there were a lot of purple jerseys. You could see, visibly as you looked out over the crowd, a lot of purple in the crowd.
Yeah, there was enough to do a Lambeau leap for Aaron Jones. Josh Oliver had a nice catch and run for TD. He's doing a good job as a placeholder for Hawkinson, but I was watching Detroit last night on Sunday night TV or Monday night TV and Monday Night Football, and they're really not using the tight end position as much as they will, I think, when Hawkinson returns and gets back. It's really interesting. There's so many other places to throw the ball. I mean, you got Naylor who's making plays as well, and he'll get shunted to the side until Jordan Addison has to leave for his situation. But someone asked me, my brother asked me, texted me, is it a problem to have? Can you have too many options for a quarterback? I said, only if you're one of the receivers, it's a problem. Well, it's not a problem for a quarterback.
Ask Patrick Mahomes if he's had any problems having too many people to throw to, and he could look at it, he could point at his 3 trophies and the back-to-back trophies, and Oliver's a completely different player. Munt is a third stringer who's good for what he is. Oliver is a blocking tight end who can surprise you. TJ Hawkinson is the modern tight end who is in the mix with the Kittle and Kelsey and those guys, and he's not Kelsey's a Hall of Famer, and but he's in that mix of the guys that you look up and they find an open spot. What I find it fascinating, and I it'd be good to get a coach mind or whatever to have O'Connell put it on the screen and say, describe how I know a lot of it's Jefferson being able to get open, but Jefferson sometimes reminds me of that tight end who finds these pockets whenever everyone else is looking at Justin Jefferson. I'm always amazed at this is Justin Jefferson. How in the world is he finding a pocket that's as big as that you see when a tight end does that? Because maybe you're not looking at the tight end as much. But this is Justin Jefferson finding those holes. So whenever you get TJ Hawkinson back in the mix, and Jordan Addison is he stays healthy, and Naylor, you're going to have a lot of stuff going on. And I think O'Connell, we've seen him, where he's put Jefferson in the backfield and had Aaron Jones in the slot running a crossing route. So I think this offense is in good hands when it comes to all these different weapons.
Yeah. a good problem to have, as they say. Well, so we'll let's take a break. I can tell Mark wants to talk a little bit about defense, so we'll do that in the next segment. The defense had a good game for a while, a questionable game as it went on, but they rallied at the end. So let's take a quick break and come back and talk about them on Vikings Territory Breakdown. Okay, folks, welcome back to Vikings Territory Breakdown with Mark Craig from the Star Tribune. Mark went to Lambeau this weekend and saw well, it started out to be a laugher or a blowout, but then it quickly turned into a nail biter, and it was ended well. So we'll take that. But so we got to talk about the defense. The defense once again. Granted, Packers, who were not telling us all week who was going to play quarterback, so that told me that maybe that they were trying to get what's his name, Jordan Love up, and they did. He looked okay. He looked sore, I think, from time to time walking back there, and he was not sharp early on, but he turned it on in the second half. The defense played lights out for a half, and they were pitching a shutout until that muff, but. Ultimately, they won the game, but giving up 465 yards to this team of offense was not good for this defense. What did you think overall of the defensive performance, and is this sustainable, or is this people going to be figuring it out, and then they got to be concerned going forward?
No. To me, it was you had a 3-yard touchdown drive, you had a 20-yard touchdown drive. Like we said, what Flores was talking about, kind of, momentum is a real thing. The ebb and the flow of a game. Now, it's not to say that, hey, no, there's no problem, nothing to see here, folks. But to be able to work on some of this stuff with a win is huge. So to me, I thought they looked a little gassed at that point where, they score to make it 20. When they're going to make it 28-14, they looked a little tired. And then they didn't have the pass rush. And then whenever the offense came out and 2 plays later, the defense is back on the field, and then you had, Harrison Smith misses a tap, gets stiff armed to the ground. So just some things where they just looked a little out of sorts, a little tired. But in saying that, this defense had enough, pedigree to it, enough strength to it, mental toughness to it, where, Byron Murphy's punching a ball out, great punch out to get that fumble. And then whoever recovered it jumps on it right there on the sideline. And then, Byron, to me, it was more of a horrible play by, equally horrible play by Love throwing it up on first down with 6 minutes left. But also that's the Vikings bring in 6 men, Harrison Smith coming off the edge, unblocked. So he certainly gets a sack there, but to throw it up for grabs, that's a bad call. If I'm a Packers fan, I'd be like, what are you doing? You're channeling a little too much of Favre and maybe like channel some more Rodgers, You don't have it in your bag to be Favre. So I think he's got to play more like a Rodgers.
Seems blitzing.
He's a good quarterback, but the Vikings have enough to more than go toe to toe with him right now.
Interesting. There was more blitzes this week, but they weren't getting home. 10 QB hits, but only 1 sack. The turnovers were huge. There's 4 of them. You mentioned a couple there that were big, and they only gave up 86 rushing yards to one of the best rushing teams in the league. So, when you look at it overall, it was a defense that played more than well enough to win. It just if they would have spaced out the good and the bad a little bit, it might not have looked so concerning in the fourth quarter when, I think, didn't they score? They scored like 22 points in the fourth quarter or something.
I think they scored. They scored 22 unanswered, and the Vikings kicked the field goal. For me, in 2022 they won 13 games. The defense, the only thing the defense really had going for it was the ability to take the ball away at the end, and turnovers can be fickle. This defense has shown that it has the ability to snuff someone out to pressure someone and beat them like a drum that way. And there's also showing, unlike last year when they started, that they had the ability to come up with takeovers, to force situations that end up in them getting the ball. This time last year, what were we talking about? Turnovers. They were -8, which was worse in the league, and they had 3 takeaways. Now they're +3, but they got 10 takeaways. 7 more takeaways in 4 games than they had last year. Now, the Vikings are, they're still kicking it away probably to more than they'd like, but overall, they're the defense is showing the ability to do both, I think. And yeah, granted, I mean, if you're going to fixating on that fourth quarter, it's not. I'm not saying it's wrong to be upset about that, but I'm thinking, this defense has got 4 games now in the footprints in the snow, of what they are. So, to me, I there's more there to like than there is to be than to say, oh, they're going to fall apart.
Let's talk about some of that to like. Blake Cashman, 11 tackles, 1 pass defense, 1 tackle for a loss, and 2 quarterback hits. Cam Bynum with 7 tackles and a fumble recovery. Brian Murphy with the interception, plus he punched out that fumble you talked about. And then there's Camus Grugier-Hill, a second pick in 2 games in relief of Ivan Pace. Just goes to show the depth of the defense this year. And that play by Hill was something else. I mean, I heard him describe it. I might even have been in one of your 5 extra points or not. I mean, that was a great quote from him talking about that play. Maybe you want to talk about that.
Well, yeah, it's one of the 5 extra points, and then I'm doing, we got to figure out if they lose a game. If they don't go 20-0, I got to come up with something besides the next morning, especially when we have 2 columnists there. I don't do 2 slugs off the game. I do one the next morning for online. Unsung player of the game. So it's like, as long as they keep winning, they'll be an unsung player. Mm-hmm. If they lose, I'll have to find out something besides unsung player. But I was talking to him about the interception. I said, watching you on that play, you're hugging the A gap on the right side of the offense, and it looks like he's going to blitz. And next thing you know, he's 16 yards downfield, and Jordan Love quoted him as well. He never saw him. It was a great play by this guy. I never saw him. And so, here's a backup guy coming up with his second interception in 2 weeks. I think he's played 47 snaps in 2 weeks, and he's got 2 interceptions as a backup player to a pretty good starter. Mm-hmm. And he said, we're playing a Tampa 2 scheme there, which, with all the things that Flores does now, he's got a little bit of a backup that has the ability to be a Tampa 2 middle linebacker who can, show blitz and then drop 20 yards and double a receiver and fight and grab the ball from the receiver. And then, then it was such a violent collision that the receiver gets his leg caught underneath Grugier-Hill, right? And with a sprained ankle or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was. At first, people were saying, "Oh, that's people online are saying everything," but they were concerned that it was a dirty play by Hill. But when you saw it in replay, he's going for the ball, just like.
Oh, it wasn't dirty at all.
No, it wasn't.
Not even remotely dirty.
Exactly. It was a great play. That was just, fantastic. And the quote, I think he was saying, he just said, he knew what was coming. And then he says, I got to go back. I got to take a shot because he figures I can try to make a play. I can go for it. And it was, to me, it was revealing, if that's an accurate quote, that I'm remembering, it's revealing what they're thinking. They in split second they get to a read and said, okay, I can make a play here or something, and he goes for it and does it. It was incredible.
Well, the play is for him to drop. I mean, no matter what else happens, it's to show the blitz and drop and be back deep in the coverage. It's all done to give options of to confuse the quarterback, but also be back there. And whenever there was something that he was supposed to, it wasn't like he went real rogue and did something that he wasn't supposed to do. Yeah. It's that he's supposed to be back there. Love doesn't see him, and whenever the ball is gone, he's able to get it, be in the neighborhood and then go and get it. And from the scheme to the execution to the that's a linebacker going after that ball. That's
right.
It's impressive.
Shaq Griffin also had a pick and a nice run back. It was nice to see him. Don't see his name a whole heck of a lot. And I think there was a play too by another guy you just don't see a lot of, so he's doing his job, is Stephon Gilmore. He had a play there yesterday too. But let me ask you real quick, they won, but and you alluded earlier to what Brian Flores had to say. What do you think? What was his mood? Did he look today at when he was talking to the media? Did he look like he's still confident and bullish on this squad, or was he backing, backpedaling a little bit because his team started so good and finished not so good? Yeah. What was your impression there?
There's no lack of confidence in he kind of alluded to what I was saying, is that this could be a good thing, that you can learn from this while still getting the win. And there's part of this, anybody who's done it, been in that arena, these guys know how hard it is to win. And whenever you weather something like that, it can strengthen your team.
I want to mention the special teams a little bit. Will Reichard, once again, is still 100% on the season, and that was no small thing in this game yesterday, because they had a lot of wind in there, and I don't know if that affected Green Bay's kicker, who missed two big kicks that plenty of Packer fans are saying, "We make those kicks and they win." Well, they were kicked they were kicked early enough that game would have changed in different ways, but. Still, hats off to Reichard for making his two kicks. Or making
that reminds you, years ago when Sid Hartman would say, "Throw out those 2 80-yard touchdowns they gave up, and then they win the game." It's like I said, you can't throw out 80-yard touchdowns.
Mark,
you can't throw out any of this stuff.
No, I want to ask you about the muffin in focus in on that a little bit. Now, I just read this morning, I didn't realize it. Powell is your punt returner, and he got hurt before that punt, and so they put Jalen Naylor back there. And I don't know how much more experienced that Powell is than Naylor. I think a lot, but he might have let that one go. When you're looking up into the sun and you can't see it, rather than put your hands up and try to make a play, you should have just, the situation being what it was, you're up 28-0, the half's almost over. Let it go in the end zone, or even let him take it at the 5-yard line or whatever.
Yeah, that's another one of those where you shouldn't have to. That shouldn't be a teaching moment, because he should know that already. But you get a win and you get a moment like do you think that if Jalen Naylor has to go in there again, he's ever going to come close to doing that again? So to me, it's a lesson learned by a good player. A good player who's not real familiar with returning punts.
We worried in the offseason when I shouldn't say worried. I probably worried, not sure that you did, but we would look with some scrutiny at the fact that there was no real kick returner here on the final, after the final cuts. They did have Powell who had done punt returns last year, but the kick returner they just didn't make that much, put that much importance on, because they let Kene Nwangu go. Kind of interesting, I'm just saying. Now I'm just trying to stir up some controversy and say, "Oh my God, did they make a mistake in the return game here?" So, but go ahead.
It'd be a punt return, because Kene didn't return punts, but
I understand.
I think we all had a little higher hopes for the excitement level of what the kickoffs would be. There's not much there.
My son, I was watching the game with him, and he says, why don't they just move the kicker back to the 25 and make him kick off from there? And so then maybe he's not going to kick so many out of the end zone unless he really boots a long one. And I think there will be some tweak at the end of the year to this kickoff thing, don't you think? Or,
I don't know. I mean, do they really want returns anymore? I
don't think so.
This is their way of, like, at least for this year, although it's fizzling, it was their way of saying, well, we care about player safety, but we also care about the play and the excitement of the play. And
Right.
they got a little ways to go to figuring it out.
It could be more boring to just watch those guys standing there as the kick is sailing over their head. The guys that they can't move until the ball's received. And it's like, God, this is such an undynamic kick now. Because I mean, even if they do return it, it's strange. It's just strange.
Well,
I mean, just to watch it one other way.
I think what they said is that they figured the average return would probably be to the 29 or something like that. So, they were saying why not just take the 30 yards. Both sides saying just take the 30-yard line. I didn't think there would be this willingness to take the 30-yard line as much as it is, but I guess the fear of like dropping it too soon and missing the zone, and then it being at the 40 is their fear, which I didn't think there'd be that much of a fear, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we'll take another quick break. We'll come back and talk about the coaching to start out before we preview the next game. Mark had I think you talked about how O'Connell out-coached LaFleur in your 5 extra points. So I want to talk about that. And so come on back to Vikings Territory Breakdown. All right, folks, welcome back to Vikings Territory Breakdown with Mark Craig from the Star Tribune. Mark, Coach O'Connell had a good game yesterday, and everybody's talking about, hey, when everybody, I like flying under the radar as a Minnesota sports fan, because don't pay attention to us until it's too late after we've already got the trophy, in our midst. We don't need all that attention. Pardon me?
Which trophy do you have?
Twins, 2 of them. Settle down. And also Lynx and even the Professional Women's Hockey League. So just back the truck up there, buddy. Coach O'Connell had a good game yesterday. 3 for 3 in his challenge. As that one you alluded to earlier with Justin Jefferson's catch on the sideline turned into a huge play for them. That he got that first down, and it's just another, third down pass in the game that it could have gone. I didn't think he got it when I first saw it, but you look at the replay. Oh my God, that's a catch! What a great catch! But it ends up being pivotal in the game because it keeps that drive going. So it was a huge deal. Everyone, and LaFleur, I think he lost 2 challenges or something like that, and he lost his a little bit too at one point.
Well, he lost a challenge right after O'Connell won his first or second challenge. Very next play, he loses a challenge. Then they got, first and goal at the 1, I believe. They still scored, so he gets off the hook. But first and goal at the 1, he loses his mind and gets an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. The referees are trying not to call that, and he just went berserk. So, that's a huge problem for a coach, I think, when you're doing that. And the design flaw, not that I propose stopping the game any more than they already stop it, but O'Connell, the rule is you got to win your first one to get your second one. And then when you win the second one, you got to win 2 to get the third one. And then that's it. You're out of it. So O'Connell has 3 really good challenges, including the Jefferson catch. And he's out of challenges with, I don't know, 4 minutes, 6 minutes, whatever it is left. If you look at the 4th and 1, there's some people that would say maybe that's a challenge. You could have challenged that, and I don't believe that's something that they review automatically with a change of possession. I'm not sure. If you need another challenge and you've won 3, I don't see why you would be out of challenges. I just don't get it. So he did a good job with that. I also, even though it didn't work, even though a lot of people say, "Oh, you're taking a receiver and you're trying to get the first down," all this stuff that because it didn't work, they're right, or they think they're right. For me, his mentality, whether that worked or not, his mentality of how he coached and how he's sort of established himself as a coach, being very aggressive, very, very decisive. His team plays with that sort of an edge to it, that expecting him go for it, to always be like pushing it. Like I said, when he came out, and I'm thinking, just run the ball. And now, if he throws an interception there, then, you're probably maybe singing a little different tune. But he had the, like I asked him about that play. Why did you come out of that strip sack after it's a 6-point game? What are you thinking throwing the ball? And he goes, I had a look there that I knew would work, and and obviously it did work because Jefferson really was wide open. So just that whole mentality of kind of pushing things, and he's got a pretty good Ferrari type Indy car going right now where he can do some things, and he's not playing it safe. And so
do you agree with that, Mark? Do you agree with that? Because I mean, that puts him up by 12 or no? Yeah, doesn't it put him up by 12 points?
It would go up 12.
It
would eliminate the stress of the onside kick there.
Right.
But his mentality is you make it a 2-touchdown game. They got to have 2 touchdowns.
Wow. So, my wife was watching the game with me, and she says, "Oh, he's getting a little cocky there."
That's fair. And but sometimes I think I like that. I like that he's, that he is that way.
The players certainly do, don't they, Mark?
Yeah, I think they do. He's dialed up so many good plays that you're thinking now. Last year with the back-to-back pushes with Brandon Powell pushing the Nick Mullins. That's where he gets a little too cute. There's arguments that can be made on both sides, because the ones that are saying he should have kicked the field goal, I mean, you have the result in your favor when you say that. When they say that, to me, it's like I just like that he's aggressive in that way. And to me, I think to survive as a coach in this league now, we've never seen this league. I'd say in the past 5 years or whatever, we've never seen this league be more aggressive when it comes to on-field coaching and off-the-field player acquisitions and stuff like that. It's exciting to watch how these guys coach now.
Yeah, it is. God, I had a question for it, then I just forgot it. It was to what you said, and this may be a stupid question, but I want to ask it anyway. O'Connell said he got a good look there. What is he seeing pre-snap, and he's still got time to get that in, or what is the look he's getting as a guy on the sideline? Isn't that something that Darnold?
Well, first of all, to spend any time with O'Connell and talk to him about the game, you realize how little. Like I've covered this league for over 30 years. I've watched this league for 50 years, and you still don't see it at the level that they see it. They see it's like chess for them. What he's saying is no. I mean, you can only talk to him up to a certain point, and then they turn the thing off. So he's not like walking him through
right
through the play. What it's like moving chess pieces around a board for them. Like plays that he probably called, the series before, or maybe 2 series before. He got some answers of how they were responding and moving stuff around, and he feels like if I call this, this chess piece is going to be here, and I'm going to. So they're looking at a game that's, so much deeper, and that makes a good play caller is they're setting stuff up. They're not just looking at, they're setting maybe plays up down the future, or if they're not setting it up, they're recognizing how they're playing it, and this to a lot of us, to especially to people that haven't seen as much as we have, it's just it looks like it's just a whirlwind of trash flying everywhere, but these guys are able to like slow it down and say, okay, that piece belongs over here. And, and it is fun to talk to a guy like that. Sort of like talking defense with Zimmer, and him, saying what he can do or what he's looking at. And then now you have O'Connell on the offensive side. And it's That's what he's talking about.
All right, not such a dumb question after all, I guess, huh?
It's you don't realize how dumb you are until you talk to smart people, I guess.
All right, well, great game for the Vikings, but let's take a look around the NFL with our NFL Insider. The Lions beat Seattle in a barn burner last night on Monday night. The Lions looked like the Lions again. They gave up a few points to Seattle, and it was fun to watch. But they look like they're back from their stumble that they had earlier. That's the first time I've got to see them play this year, so they look pretty good.
Yeah, Jared Goff has a perfect passer rating and catches a touchdown. I love that touchdown because the last guy in the world you're expecting to catch a touchdown would be Jared Goff.
Yeah,
and the life that brought to that team. And I know Vikings fans probably it's a bad time for like Detroit to rise up because it's like, but just to see Detroit and to see that stadium and see where the Lions are right now, and what those two games against the Lions offers as a football fan is going to be fun to watch because coming out of the bye, that's who they got at US Bank Stadium, and to see that offense go against the Vikings defense is going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, interesting note for me. I just heard it in listening to the game. The Lions coaching staff had all kinds of offers in the offseason, or a few of them did, to move, and they all stayed. And that play that you're describing, the pass to the quarterback from Amon St. Brown to Goff is one of those things that a coaching staff that knows each other can do. And I think O'Connell is that kind of guy. He's got a lot of stuff going on, but that says a lot about that team and how they want to go forward. And I'm hoping that makes an impression on the Vikings so they keep Flores around for a few more years.
Well, and like Ben Johnson, their offensive coordinator, could have gone to any one of these openings.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what guys are looking at is, and I think Flores before he came here didn't, he had a chance to maybe interview for the Cardinals job, I believe, whatever.
I think so.
Yeah, you're gonna, maybe some of these younger guys are gonna take a look and it's got to be the right sit. Not only does it have to be just an offer, it's got to be the offer's got to be from a good situation. So, in another, not outside the X's and O's, talked a couple of weeks ago or last week or whatever it was about sitting down with O'Connell and him talking about the physicality and him, preaching, being a tougher team. That's earmarked for Detroit. I mean, he wants them to be to stand toe to toe physically with a team like Detroit and not, have to trick them and fool them and disguise things. He wants to be able to line up, and that's another. It's going to be fun to watch when they play Detroit in that regard because now they got some physical. They can dictate some terms now, whereas before I think they had Detroit was probably a little tougher than they were.
Right. The Bears won again. They played a bit better this weekend than they have in the past. Still not sold on them, but they've got 2 wins. I think they're 2-2 and still hanging tough. They tied with the Packers, so we could just shuffle them off and just worry about the Lions, but can't do that yet because if I put that bulletin board material up there, it'll come back to bite.
Oh yes, the Bears are big fans of our show.
Exactly. Some other teams around the league. What's up with the Eagles? And I'm sitting with my son watching the game, pulling his hair out because you can't get any production out of Jalen Hurts. They just don't seem. I don't know the Eagles of the past yet. I'm not sure what's going on out there in Philly.
Well, they were 10-1 last year, and then they've completely nosedived since then. I was listening to Logan Payne on Sirius XM radio, former safety in the league, and him talking about Todd Bowles in Tampa and how he's the last few times that he's played the Eagles and Jalen Hurts and what he's been able to do to him, and speculating that the league is kind of looking at that, and when they play the Eagles, I don't know how much truth that is to that. I know that Logan Payne has a better football mind and body than I do. So Yeah, the Eagles are not the same as they were, when they were 10-1.
Interesting.
So, hey, the Vikings, the 49ers are not going to go away. They've had injuries, they'll survive. But the Vikings are right there with anybody in the NFC.
What's up with Cleveland? Joe Flacco didn't need him, I guess. Huh? He's now winning
Well,
it.
the only reason they didn't do Joe Flacco is they didn't want that shadow of Joe Flacco in the locker room over their $250 some million guaranteed quarterback. And that's a crappy way to run your franchise, is whenever you get rid of a guy that can help you because your quarterback, the leadership probably is a little too weak to sustain having Joe Flacco in your locker room.
Wow.
Because you guaranteed right now it would be, hey, let's start Joe Flacco. Well, if you want to make your starter look good, go out and get Jameis Winston. I think. And but in saying that, the Browns have all, both their tackles are out. They got injuries all up and down the board. That's primary. Although they played the Raiders, who were even more banged up and had superstars sitting out. But yeah, this looks like it could be one of those Cleveland years where Watson's going to be a huge disappointment, and they're going to be injured.
Alarm bells are ringing over there. The Ravens, speaking of the same division, got back on track and looked very good in killing the Bills the other night.
I tell you, I didn't think Derrick Henry had anything left until he got past the first two levels. And you got a 250-pound man pulling away from defensive backs.
I couldn't believe it. Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah,
I still, the Ravens are a good team. I still am, that when they get into a situation, do they have the ability to beat the Chiefs or win that playoff game at the end of the year? They had home field advantage last year. To me, it's just Lamar Jackson reverts to his, run first mentality, and you can win you games now, but I just don't think that until he develops more as a quarterback. And this is a two-time league MVP I'm saying this about, but it's just how I feel, is that until it's more than just him, running in critical clutch situations, they're going to struggle.
Got to do it.
In big games.
Got to do it so they believe it. Well said. One more. How about the Commanders? All of a sudden, Jaden McDaniels is got them going, and they're the lead in the NFC East. Who'd have thought that at the beginning of the year? Not me.
No, but there are two running backs. Getting Eckler and Jaden. He looks like the C.J. Stroud of this year. It's right. He's the guy that's looking. Even week one, he wasn't his best, but he was still could run the ball. I think he's the games I've seen, the plays I've seen, he's not running just haphazardly. It's more of a control, like he's in control of the situation. They're good. And their defense, although when they traded away their some of their defensive linemen at the trading deadline last year, I think it was, they still got those tackles in the middle that are really good. It's really set a tone for their defense, and then they got some power on offense. Yeah, they could win the NFC East.
Refresh my memory. Daniel Schneider sold that team, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Oh, okay. Then I'm going to enjoy this. Okay, we got to quick get to the return of the A-Rod. He's coming. Where our old nemesis, Aaron Rodgers, and the New York Jets are flying to London to meet up with the Vikings. They're 2-2. They're up and down, up and down. They just got beat 10-9 at home by the Broncos. Broncos have a good defense, but that's still not a good look for A-Rod and the lads. So what do you think about this team coming in?
Yeah, I backed out. I had the Jets as my survivor pick last week, all the way up until like Friday, and then I watched how the Denver played defense, and I said, I'm getting out of that one, and I went to San Francisco and I won because I just felt that the way that they blitz and the way they go after the quarterback, and Rodgers, he was never real mobile, but he could always move. Was kind of a sitting duck. And the first play of the game, they do a blitz and they sack him. A minute 50 left, they went after him and sacked him on 4th and 10. I think they had 14 hits, 17 pressures, 5 sacks. They were all over him. And it's funny because we were out there today, and I asked Flores a question. I said, hey, is it tough giving up a home game whenever you look at what they did against the Texans at US Bank Stadium? A 4-0 Vikings team coming in playing Aaron Rodgers. Can you imagine what the crowd would have been like? And then he paused, and I said, I know it's a loaded question, and he kind of laughed. And then he was trying to think of what to say, and I go, are you going to punt? Giving him the option to punt. And he goes, no, I'm not going to punt. But then he goes, I'm really looking forward to going to London and Big Ben, and my family's coming, and it could be a good crowd there, but not as good as US Bank. And he goes, that's my long-winded version of punting. And whenever we laughed, but when you give up a home game, and as many times as they've played in London, if I'm a Vikings fan, if I'm a season ticket holder, and this season is unfolding, and I don't get to go watch them play Aaron Rodgers for the last time, and enjoy a 4-0 start and sending him out, the way that is probably what you could unfold, that sucks if I'm a Vikings fan.
That's great point. Well said.
I still feel like they can do that. I mean, Denver did that to them at New York or at Jersey. Yeah. So, I still feel like the Vikings could do it, and do the same thing that Denver did. But, if it was here, it could, wow. I mean, that crowd would have been amazing.
Right. That's a very good point and good question. It's tough. They do have, being one of the first teams that ever played in London. There are a lot of Vikings fans over there, but I don't know if they'll show up. But they played in some season games. They were one of the first 2 teams there, I think.
Yeah, I think it was in the 80s. They went there as a preseason game back then.
Yeah. Correct. So they've got a lot. So hopefully that helps. But yeah, no, that you make a great point. That's too bad it's a home game. Well, that sounds like I know what you're going to do, because we had the prediction segment coming here. I picked up a game because I picked the Vikings. Mark picked the Packers, and he's down in another game, so I got a 2-game lead. We got to make sure you folks know that, but certainly that that, Mark Craig. So. What are you gonna? You can make me go first if you want, because I'm in the lead, and you can.
You're gonna pick the Jets, Joe. Yeah, I'm sure you're gonna give me some long reason for the Jets, right? Yeah, that's so. I'm still, my preseason pick of 6-11 is not dead yet, Joe. Is there a path to get like the presidential when they got all the states up there and the path to 270? Is there a path to 6-11 where they go 2-11 the rest of the year? I'm totally bamboozled by the 4-0 start, I will admit. And Aaron Rodgers could surprise us, and it is a bounce back game, which they have a better chance of bouncing back in London than they do coming here. Yeah. If they were here, it would be it bounce his head off the turf. But I still, it's the Vikings. I mean, they're the pass rush. I know that they wobbled in the fourth quarter and all that stuff. But watching the Jets this morning, I watched the Jets game. I don't see them being able to protect him well enough to win.
Yeah. Well, if they do, if your preseason prediction of 6-11 does come through at this point, I think there'll be pitchforks and torches at your front door.
Well, if they win this week, then I got to figure out how are they going to go 1-11 the rest of the way. Okay. Can you go 1-11 coming out of a bye week when you're 5-0? I don't see it happening.
Well, I don't want to get too cocky, but I'm picking them as well. I'm impressed as heck by this team, and I keep reminding folks that I called it a transition year. Heard someone else do it. I'm taking my lumps, but I heard someone else do it on one of the talking heads about this team said the same thing about him. Said, okay, so I'm not alone. It's out there.
You could say you were expecting them to transition to greatness.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it just happened sooner than I thought.
Yes, it happened. It happened a month sooner than you, or It happened 11. It happened 11 months quicker than you thought it would.
That's what I'm going with. But yeah, I'm picking him as well. So I look forward to that game. They have at running back. There's a little bit of it sounds like Braylon Allen, I think that's his name, is starting to take more rushes away from Breece Hall, if that's his name, and I don't know what to expect there. But I think Brian Flores is going to dial up some stuff for Aaron Rodgers. It might even confuse him for his 40-year-old mind. So I'm looking forward to game.
Confuse a lineman in front of him. I know that. Probably.
Yeah.
The other thing that happened in that game was, his famous cadence. Where he gets people to jump and show their hand defensively. Well, it backfired. I've never seen anything like it with Rodgers. They had 5 false starts at home because when Rodgers was doing his cadence, they were jumping off. It's like I remember in high school when we could never go anything except on the first hut because we didn't have 5 people. I was the center, and we did not have 4 other people. It was mostly the linemen that jumped. It was like we just said, "The hell with it. We can't go on 2 because nobody could ever hold their water." So that's what it reminded me of. They had 5 false starts, and it was because of they were like going.
Well, on that note, Mark Craig's high school time as a center, not calling the snaps or snapping the ball. That'll do it for us this week. Thanks, Mark.
I'll tell Garrett Bradbury. You need me to step in for. I'll take the contact. I don't know if I can take the contact though.
I've got to ask you a little bit more about that going forward. Maybe some more insight into Bradbury. Because you've been in that position. That's a tough position. I mean, not that you know it on this level, but
a little lower level, I think.
Yes, for sure. Well, I was tight end, so I like to talk about that and what
Bradbury, Hawkins. We should just get a foursome. Get a golf foursome together and shoot the crap about our position.
I can still do the toe tapping on the sidelines because I do the falling down real well.
Yeah. I would have. Yeah, we could trip and fall that way.
Exactly. But anyway, thanks, Mark. Thanks, Mike Wolin, for producing. Thanks, Joe Johnson. I hope you're loving all this. It's been great so far. And thanks to everybody for checking us out. Please do it again next week. We'll be chatting around about the Vikings London game with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets and heading into that bye week. So come on back and tune in then. And until we do, Skol, baby, 4-0.
Skol.